Before we get started, some sad news. The Hammers Chat store is closing. That's bad news for us. For you guys that are looking for something of a West Ham bargain, probably quite good news. I'm not going to go into the whole sob story of why we've unfortunately having to close the shop right now. But if you go over there now, the link's in the description below, but it's hammerschatstore.com. Go and have a look, and you'll hopefully find yourself a bargain. This was one of my favourite things that we did. Anyway, go and check it out. Have a look at that. Yesterday I started the video by suggesting that not every rumour that happened in the transfer window I was going to believe. So I said, let's just manage expectations now. And that was absolutely true. I didn't necessarily believe a lot of the stuff that was out yesterday. However, what I'm about to talk about today, which no doubt you'll have seen in a thumbnail and a description, about West Ham being offered Jadon Sancho, I absolutely believe. You can never be 100% unless you're sat in the room with the people or on the call, which clearly I'm not claiming that I was. But this is, I've got it on pretty good authority that this was absolutely true, and that was that West Ham were offered Manchester United winger, who's obviously been on loan at Chelsea, Jaden Sancho. Now, well, I guess I'll tell you what I think about Sancho before we get into the story. I obviously, like everybody else, I thought he was brilliant at Dortmund. When he went to Manchester United and he struggled, initially you think, maybe he's not so good, but I think so many people have left Manchester United and thrived, be it our own Aaron Wan-Bissaka, of course, Scott McTominay, I think he might have even got Serie A Player of the Year or something like that. Whoever it is, people seem to leave Old Trafford and thrive. And after a number of those happens, you start to realise, well, actually, probably it's the environment that's not right. There's something wrong with the club. It's very, very... That whole thing, create an environment where it's impossible not to succeed. That's the quite opposite, really, at Manchester United. So I tend not to read too much into individual players performing badly when they're there. That being said, I think he's had a bit of a stop-start season at Chelsea. I think sometimes he's looked brilliant. I think sometimes he's looked average and poor. But again, that's been Chelsea, right? I've never quite really warmed to the idea of getting Sancho because I guess I'm too caught up with this sort of lack of pace. I'm a little bit obsessed with this lack of pace, which I think West Ham have. And for all these skills and all these qualities, as a wide man, as just a straight out right winger, I've always thought he was a little bit too slow. So I've never particularly, wanted him or coveted him or thought he was a brilliant player. That being said, do West Ham right now play with outright wingers? No, we don't really. Wing backs, yes. Even when you look at Kudus and look at Bowen, whenever Bowen has not been played at striker, have they really been nailed on wide men all the time under Graham Potter? No. So anyway, it would seem that we were offered Sancho, but we said no. Or at least the club said, well, let's go and investigate, let's look further. They then suggested to the manager, Graham Potter, we've been offered Sancho, and apparently Graham Potter said no. And for reasons I've already described, I can't be furious or annoyed with that because I've never particularly wanted him at West Ham anyway. That being said, we don't play with wingers, so maybe in sort of that inside, sometimes when he plays those sort of like inside number 10s if you want, which is probably more what Kudus was playing to the last 10 games of the season. Maybe Sancho would be more suited to that. But anyway, Potter said no. That's absolutely fine. But there's a few things that surround this that make it quite intriguing and quite interesting, really. And I think the first one is that West Ham were able to get to the point where we had an ability to construct a deal, because I heard this deal was affordable. I don't know what the exact makeup of the deal was, but as far as I understand it, he was on loan to Chelsea. Chelsea had an obligation to buy, which was 25 million. So as we understand it, that would have been his cost, right? But if Chelsea didn't take up the obligation to buy, they could pay Manchester United £5 million to get out of the obligation to buy, if that makes sense. It looks like he probably will go to Chelsea now, but they're looking at Gittins, who's another another player that's over at Dortmund, obviously. Really good player, really good promising player. We featured him, actually, funny enough, on our Patreon, on our Amateur Scout series on Patreon, which you can go and take a look at, by the way. If you want to go and have a look at Patreon, we've got a 7-day free trial. Link is in the description below. Patreon.com/HammersChat. Little cheeky plug there. But I think Chelsea will probably go back and get him, but West Ham were given a chance. Now, all I heard was the deal was structured so it was affordable. Now, I think this is where you start to get towards the truth of how much money West Ham do or don't have in this upcoming transfer window. So we've heard we're completely skint and we've got to sell before we can buy. I don't think that's true, and this sort of proves it's not. But also the other one, which you hear, West Ham have got loads of money. I don't think that's true either. And I think whilst season ticket sales are better than the club's worst doomsday scenario, they're still probably worse, and the season ticket renewals are probably worse than they've been since we moved to the London Stadium. But there's a bit of money there, and if the deal is structured correctly, we could afford it. So as I understand it, Manchester United and West Ham came to some sort of agreement. I would imagine it was probably less than 25 million. Let's say it was £20 million for Jadon Sancho spread over 5 years, and West Ham probably said, okay, we can probably do that. But the manager said no. I don't, as I say, don't mind on the player himself. What it does show is that we have someone in Graham Potter who's very, very willing to go his own way. Now, I don't know if I know the old thing that maybe Will Salthouse involved. As I understand it, Potter's not doing any of that stuff. Potter's not involved Salthouse in any of this stuff. But maybe, just maybe, this was a player that David Sullivan had gone to the manager with, which he's done many, many times in the past. I think Said Benrahma would probably be the most famous case in point. Quite possibly the most recent was Crescencio Somerville, as we understand. That was a Sullivan signing. So I think Sancho would have been a Sullivan signing. But the manager said, no, don't want him. Not interested at all. Now, if you are somebody that thinks, hold on, I would have liked to have signed Jaden Sancho, then you're probably thinking, well, that's not so good. But if you're thinking, well, hold on a second, we need to move away from that other stuff and let the manager have full control, then I think this is an example of that. I think that's exactly what this is. I think this is the manager saying, no, I'm going to continue to get my player. It was really interesting, the wording. He's not the type of player we're looking for. Sounds a bit Obi-Wan Kenobi, doesn't it? This is not. This is not the type of player you're looking for, basically. Move along. Sorry, I shouldn't get involved in Star Wars when I'm talking about West Ham, should I really? It's good to know that we're being... I guess we'd always be offered players, wouldn't we? But I guess it's good to know that Potter's going his own way. I still can't quite relax on this situation just yet until we've signed a few players. I'm still worried that I know it's very early in the transfer window, but we were signing players early in the transfer window last season. I'm still worried that Potter and Sullivan are both away on holiday when the transfer window opens, but it does show that in spite of that happening, they are being active. Stuff is going on. So I guess I should probably chill out on that a little bit. So, but I think the two main takeaways from this are, if you're looking for positives, and someone said, say something positive, I'll give you two positives. We're probably doing our transfers slightly differently to the way that, that we've done them in the past. And I think quite possibly there is a little bit of money there that will at least allow us to sign one player. There he is there. I don't mean Sancho. That would at least allow us to sign one player before we then go and probably have to start selling a lot of players. Anyway, there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll do another... people seem to respond quite well to that 60-second news roundup in 60 seconds. Little bite-sized chunk. Not everybody's got time to watch all the videos and sit here and listen to a 10-minute waffle. Completely understand that. So I will try and continue to do some short bite-sized stuff as well as the long elongated piece. Anyway, there you go. I'll catch up with you later on.